All right, man.
Yeah. So wait. So there's one thing I wanted to bring up that I didn't bring up on the show was that this article I pulled up is Meghan Markle reportedly eyeing bid for the White House, talking to top U.S. Democrats.
You mentioned that last week.
We talked about that. I found an article. So I read the article, and it was like anonymous people are saying that they're meeting with this. So it's unsubstantiated reporting. However, her biographer is quoted in there as saying, yep, she's talked to me about it, and yep, she's doing this. And then so there's back and forth over this whole thing. But boy, I tell you, it wouldn't surprise me if she were to try to run for president. I mean, remember the last Democrat primary? I mean, there was like 30 people that ran for president. So why not throw Meghan Markle up there too?
You know what bothers me about that is a personification of what's wrong with the leftist movement. What I mean by that, okay, the leftist movement, we talk about it, is always about trying to prop ourselves up by pushing other people down. And it's gotten to the point of preying on the white guilt of, now you got to call all your friends racist so that you can virtue signal and feel better about your guilt or whatever before somebody else calls you racist. It's a horrible, diabolical thing. Well, she just did the same thing. If what you say is true, let's torch the entire royal family by calling them racist. Oh God, it makes me sick even saying this. But to call them racist in some vague ways, unsubstantiated and everything else, so I could prop myself up for my own well-being. That's disgusting. That's absolutely
well. Not
disgusting.
only that, but to do it with Oprah Winfrey too. I mean, like you've now made it impossible for anybody to trust you, because if something goes wrong, you're just gonna call up Oprah.
Yeah,
you're gonna tell Oprah, and then she's gonna tell everybody. I mean, it just seems so unfair. Like, what a cheap shot that is right there. And they had somebody started a GoFundMe for Meghan and Harry to buy their multi-million-dollar house, which somehow they can't afford now. I remember reading that. I was so angry because I'm like, sure, people are going to put $20 here, and pretty soon they're going to get a free house here in America. Like they've earned that somehow.
Right.
And I just read this morning that the GoFundMe account just fell flat on its face due to non-interest. And
oh my God, that's great. Because I was all bought into us being stupid enough as a nation to fund that thing.
Yeah. Same here. And I gotta say, Barry, I asked you the question in the previous show. Do you think that people are starting to wise up and see, like you said, like, here, this administration came in, it was bait and switch. You're seeing everything that's happening at the border right now. You're seeing how they're not transparent. You're hearing, the Meghan Markle thing, and the royal family is prejudice. Oh, we've got this Asian prejudice problem. I never heard of that before.
Right.
It's just and you're going to go into our governor, who, by the way, is saying that the recall is all about QAnon and Republicans and white supremacists. And I'm like, well, none of them live in California. So I mean, how are they making this happen? I mean, is the public starting to, do you think they're starting to see this?
I don't know, because the white guilt thing has been like a really easy thing, like a fly in the ointment kind of thing, that it really works. There's obviously so much white guilt that people, like I said, will throw their own friends and family under the bus on social media, calling them racist in order to virtue signal and make them they fall for it. They've fallen for it.
Yeah.
Head over heels. So are they starting to see it? I think it's inevitable that it happens, but is it happening yet? I don't know. All this white supremacy talk, it's so ridiculous to me, because here's the thing is, you can, like the Asian thing. Well, you can find somebody getting video of an Asian facing some kind of prejudice out of, when you got 360 million people to choose from.
Yeah.
Right. So you prop those out. and hear about every one of them. Like I said, the Daily Mail was full of all that. And they just canceled that young girl, that 27-year-old girl that was working for, just got her job at Vogue or whatever it was. And they canceled her because of a tweet she made 10 years ago about
about her eyes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Boy, at what point do people
are so sensitive?
Oh, geez, Merle, what bothers me, I've said it before, I say it repeatedly, is that we went through, our generation coddled these people so much and listened to their every whim. And, oh my God, your self-esteem, and oh, you're offended. Somebody bullied you. Somebody picked on you. And now we're still doing it. They're adults now. And we got these misfits online finding little things like this that make them feel good about themselves, destroying someone else. Oh, I'm so powerful to be part of this movement. That is really because they see themselves as righting all the injustices, because they haven't been spanked. They haven't been said, you need a timeout because you're behaving badly and you're hurting other people. You're being a spoiled brat. So we perpetuate this. We do it. We're doing it. We watch these stars start to get accused of something, like they're on the verge of cancel, and they just do these god awful apologies, these sickening apologies. Yeah,
they're horrible.
Yeah. They just kneel to it and kneel right in it. And it's not authentic. There's nothing authentic going on in America right now in the media, in social media.
No.
Sooner or later, it has to change. Whether it's happening yet, I don't know, Merle, but we got to be coming to a head here.
I get the feeling that if we look at the media, mainstream media, and they show us a picture of what their version of the world looks like, and of course, it looks like everything they say it is through their lens. But when you go outside and you talk to people like you did when you're volunteering, and you just start talking,
fun,
you don't see what it's being portrayed in TV and even movies now, or television shows, or the news. It's not like that out there.
No.
And so and so here we are. We've been trapped in our homes. So of course TV is on, and now they have this opportunity to paint here's what it looks like outside, and then they say it over and over, and we just start to believe it, because it's like faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing and hearing, and oh, the sky is green now. I believe it. So. That seems to be what they're doing, and it is effective. But I think that the majority of the people, it just seems like they're not buying it. But I don't know. I hope they're waking up. I've heard people say, "Well, I voted for Biden, but I didn't think he was going to do this, and I wish that I hadn't have done that."
He surprised me. Voted Trump, I didn't vote for him, but I thought he would be harmless. I
knew he wasn't going to be harmless. I mean, when he came out and said, "Do I look like a socialist?" and I was like, "Uh-oh, this sounds like a Carney line right here." Like, what do you mean? Does a socialist look like something? Like, are you supposed to look like? How are we supposed to respond to that? But that I wanted to hide my wallet when he said that.
I know. Oh, what was I going to say about that? Oh, I forgot. There was something important I was going to say about that. Well, it'll come back to me.
I just hope people are waking up. I know, there's a lot of idiocracy going on, but I mean,
sure is.
These folks that are in charge now just don't seem like they're smart enough to carry off the big lie that they're trying to carry off. I mean, here we are. We've got an open border on the and you go to Washington, D.C., where these people are all making the decisions, and they're behind a big wall with razor wire. And so what? That doesn't okay, so who are they scared of?
Yeah.
And you start to think, well, if you're just going to let anybody willy-nilly come across the border and they've got COVID, are they scared of us? Like that they think that pretty soon we're going to get wise to what they're doing to destroy America, and that they're concerned that we're going to,
I think that's
that we're actually they're not afraid of any enemies coming over the border. but it seems like we've become the enemy, the general population.
What a statement that is. And I think it's right. I do. And you know me, I try to be very moderate. I don't want to say anything that sounds super extreme, but I think you made the exact point. That I saw the fence. I mean,
it's terrible.
And the armed guards. So who are they afraid of? Now they're going to tell you that it's this big QAnon, whoever they are, this huge QAnon outbreak. Never met any of them either.
Me neither.
Remember a couple of weeks ago
I never. Go ahead.
Oh, you said, yeah, you'd expect I'd be seeing the KKK marching down the street, Main Street.
Yeah, with torches and stuff. Yeah, like I haven't seen one of those guys. Yeah. In fact, I'd be out there with my camera, like, let's get a picture, man. I got to film this. I might even be a little excited, you know?
Yeah.
But none of that's happening. And, but they sure do make it seem like that. And then, okay. So, you know, I saw this video where back to Newsom, our governor, and he's out there saying, I actually saw this interview. He was being interviewed on The View. Did you see this?
I wanted to talk, if you're talking about the Zoom schooling, I wanted to get to that. The ultimate hypocrisy. Okay.
But I am talking about Newsom, and he's talking about, he was interviewed on the Zoom, on The View, on The View. And you know, I'm not a big fan of The View, but I got to tell you, the questions coming from that group at The View were tough questions.
Really?
They drilled this guy. I mean, they were saying stuff like, you know, you're about to be recalled. I mean, this is really happening, and it looks like it has everything to do with your policies around COVID. And he you know, took ownership and everything. And he said, yeah, but well, he actually didn't take ownership. He said, look, this is being driven by the same people that the Proud Boys, QAnon, the 3%ers, you know, the Republicans, the Trump supporters. Sure. And it was like, wow. And then they came back and they said, well, okay, you can say that, but really we're looking at you, and you've got at least 30% of the people that signed the recall are Democrats. So, I mean, they weren't letting them off the hook. They even brought up the point where, look, I mean, they put a big picture of him eating in that restaurant without the mask on, and he had to take responsibility for that. But, you know, it came to the question about the comparison between California and Florida. And I think it's pretty interesting to take a look at it, because the case rate per capita and the death rate per capita are pretty similar between Florida and California. In fact, in the ratings, California rates just a little bit better than Florida. California is 27 and Florida is 28 out of 50 states. So, but you look at what Florida's done, and you were down there and you've heard what they're doing here in California. And so they asked him to address that. And what he said was, and I thought this was a pretty good response. He said it was what they're not considering is the population here in California and the density of the proximity that people live in here, which I think is a pretty good point that he made.
It is, just like New York. Yeah.
However, he didn't address the fact that the oldest state is Florida. Yes. And those are the people with the most comorbidities. And so he conveniently left that out of the equation, and nobody on The View ever brought that up. But I mean, they brought up the fact that the kids in California aren't in school. The kids in Florida have been in school since the fall, and they're having success there. They brought up the unemployment being in California. Go ahead.
That's the perfect place for me to inject this. That just a couple days ago, I didn't put a link in my notes. I just thought about it. Just a couple days ago, he was busted as saying that he's a Zoom schooler. He said something to that effect, meaning that his kids are being at home taught via Zoom, right. As in he appreciates the hardship with that. And it came out immediately. His kids have been in school since November. Since November.
They have.
Think of the hypocrisy.
Because they're in a private school.
Put that with his going out to dinner without a mask and all that. Put that all together. What does this guy really believe? You know, he's shoveling a lot of crap, man. He really is.
He really is. I mean, when you're blaming this on the Proud Boys, I don't need. Who are the Proud Boys?
I don't.
Where did these guys even come from?
I do know the head of that. I brought that up before. He's this Hispanic guy. They started with the white supremacist stuff. Yeah, and that blew up in their face.
Right,
but it's a small organization, and it's mostly, I think it's mostly in Florida, Cubans and stuff like that. People that are anti-communist because they know what happens in communism. They fled it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that's legit, but and then he also mentioned that a recall, he's been a governor for like, I think less than 3 years now, or 3 years. There have been 26 recall efforts against him, and 26. 26 efforts again. He's only been a governor for 3 years. And so he brought that up immediately. Oh, yeah, it's the same people every time. There's been 26 efforts. This is all. And I'm like, wait a second. I don't know if I would have come out as the first thing to say there's been 26 efforts. I mean, that just doesn't speak to like how pathetic you are? Because I mean, come on, man.
It's like if you dodged 26 bullets over your lifetime, maybe you need to take a look at yourself. You know what I mean?
That's a great analogy. Why? Maybe you got to figure out, why are people shooting at me? Oh, I got a bullseye on me.
Really?
It's like that Far Side.
I think it was your brother told me about the opening scene of The Jerk, and I looked it up on YouTube or something. I never saw the movie, and he's like, oh my God, it's the funniest movie ever. And so he's a white guy who was raised in a black community. He thinks he's black.
Yeah.
I forget all of it, but he said the funniest thing is he's standing there and somebody shoots at him and it hits the paint can. And it paint something like that. He goes, man, they really don't like that paint can, the paint or something like that.
Yeah, he hates these cans. So he's first, these cans are defective. And he's like, no, this guy hates those cans.
I gotta see that movie. I've never seen it.
But it is a lot like, it's a great analogy to Gavin Newsom. You know, it's just for him. It's like, no, it's not me. They just hate these cans. I don't know what it is. But yeah. He seems like, I mean, he seems smart enough to really understand what's going on.
He's a manipulator,
and he's using it to manipulate. Absolutely.
Man, look at the politicians there. You know, like Pelosi and Maxwell,
Feinstein, and Kamala Harris. I mean, they all come out.
They're all manipulators. Place. Yeah.
They really are. And, you know, and it's funny, the two people that immediately, as soon as the recall became real, like, this is real, this is going to happen. There's going to be a recall vote. So they've got over 2 million votes. They only needed 1.47 million or something. 80% so far of the signatures are valid. So this is going to happen. Wow. And 30% of them are from Democrats. I mean, that's just so far. So I'm going to think it's going to be more like 40% are going to be Democrats, and nobody's happy with what's happening out here right now. And especially the do as I say, not as I do kind of mentality. Yes. That's really what's happening here. But the two people that immediately, as soon as this became very real, the two very high profile people jumped on board the bandwagon with Newsom, and they are Adam Schiff and Bernie Sanders. So if that tells you anything,
sure.
Schiff, like,
how can he be
tell like what kind of people, what kind of person you are by the people that are surrounding you, and those are the people surrounding him. So I think that should tell the whole story.
Did you see Fauci getting kind of torn up by Rand Paul? And
yes,
and he's wearing the double mask. I totally agree with Rand Paul.
So do I.
Every bit of it. And I'm trusting Fauci less and less. I think that he doesn't want to let go of his newfound stardom, to tell you the truth.
I think that I heard a commentator saying that he thinks that Fauci's used up his
credibility,
value to the administration and even the previous administration. He prefaced that by saying, hey, Fauci's done great work. I mean, you know, throughout his career, but at this point, I think really because he's been compromised by what you just said, by stardom, And there's just a lot of inconsistencies, and
yes,
they're probably going to have to find a new person here. But Rand Paul made sense. You're discouraging people from getting the vaccination because what you're scaring people by saying even if you get the vaccination, you're not safe. Yeah. Why would anybody get a vaccination if it doesn't work? And then I heard it. Go ahead.
By the way, I'm getting mine in 5 hours.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, let me come back to that. Because I hold on to that because that's important. But I heard a commentator say this defending Fauci and saying, well, I think what Fauci was trying to say is this.
Can't wait to hear this.
No, it's not a danger for the people that have gotten the vaccination that they're going to get it again. The danger is that they could come in contact with somebody that has COVID and get COVID in their nasal cavity and then go and spread it to somebody by breathing out this COVID that's in their nose. It'll spread to somebody else. That's what they said. But
well, I think
I don't know if the science backs that up. Just somebody saying that.
I don't believe it either. I don't believe it either. It's kind of the same thing. You could say that, well, I'm immune to COVID, but I was walking around and holding on to handrail and I got COVID all over my hand and I went over here and put it somewhere and it infected people. So, I mean, there's that. I don't know what to say about that. There's no science.
There's no science. There's not. Right. And I think if Fauci is going to be the science says this, then you're going to have to prove it with the science. And that's what Rand Paul was challenging him on. And all he could come back with was, I disagree with you. Yeah. And so, I think the science is important, but science is done by using the scientific method, and the scientific method is done by reproducing it over and over. Look, this is it. I've been able to reproduce it. That's what the scientific method is. And if you can't do that, it's just not science.
In other words, believe the science.
Right. Believe it if it actually is science.
It's a mantra for some of us that choose to pick and choose what science to believe. That's what bothers me.
Or if a scientist said it, if they have like science in their title or something, everything they say somehow is right. And we know that science has been wrong. I mean, science is based on getting things wrong. Like you figure out science by weeding things out, by getting things wrong. That's how the scientific method actually works. So you can't, anyway. We've seen where the science has gone wrong a whole bunch of times in life. And you can't just have faith in science.
It's like when you want to further divide people up, you pick genders and make up new genders and stuff. Well, we're not believing science anymore.
It's like the border. Don't put your kids in school because they'll give COVID to each other. But we'll put 3,000 kids, with some of them with COVID, in close proximity to each other and keep them there for 90 days. What? In order to, and let's think about, like, why do they want to bring all these kids across the border? You really think about, like, what's the motivation to change the policy to have a whole bunch of kids coming across the border? I can only think of one thing. And I don't think it's because of humanity towards the kids, because if that were the case, you wouldn't put them all into a place where they could all get COVID and die. Right. So it's got to be something else, right? And I'm thinking, okay, you bring in like all these kids, well, they're going to vote Democrat for the rest of their lives. So you put that together with HR 1. And again, you've enshrined the Democratic Party as you've turned America into a one-party system. Yeah. And that's just dangerous.
Yeah, sure is. Well, I'm talked out on that. What else you got going on?
Well, I don't know.
So my COVID shot.
Oh yeah. We're coming back to that.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the shot, huh?
Yeah. So I was having
Cool.
a hard time trying to get it. It's like a week or so ago.
I remember you talking about it last week. Yeah.
Yeah. They said, oh, it's open up to people over 50 now. So I go online, go to the government thing. Nah, it's still asking, well, are you 60 or over? No, kicks me out. Ask my doctor via my chart. He's like, we're still doing 60 and up here, but check back every week. Well, all of a sudden, a few days ago, I go back to that same government form. Oh, it is now 50 and over. So I do that. Okay, then it's like, okay, so where do you live? Type in your zip code. Boom. Okay, so where do you want to get it? There's all these different places. I get it at Walgreens 1 mile down the road at 6 o'clock tonight. Yeah.
Wow. I saw where Joe Biden was talking about, expediting these virus or these vaccinations. And he mentioned a whole bunch of different places, like you said Walgreens.
Mm-hmm.
But he even mentioned veterinarians. And I thought, that's an odd thing. Yeah. I can't imagine getting a shot at the vets, like going there, like, are you done with Fido yet? You wash your hands.
Yeah, really. It's like he's using the same needle that he just pulled out of a dog.
I saw you just put that in that dog. And like he wants to take your temperature with the thing you just put in the dog's butt. Okay.
Anyway. Mike Baker, back to that former CIA guy that was on Rogan, was talking about they were talking about these vaccines. And he once again said about the disinformation campaign. They talked a lot about it. It was very interesting about Russia planting so much disinformation about the vaccines because they have their own. It's called Sputnik. Yes. It's called Sputnik.
Is it really?
Yes. And
wow.
So they want to create all the distrust. They're especially targeting Pfizer because they want to sell theirs worldwide. There's billions of dollars to be made here.
I think they called it Sputnik because they came out with the vaccine first.
Yeah, yes, they did.
Sputnik because was the first one to get in, the first satellite in space was
correct.
Sputnik.
Yes, so exactly.
I think that's why
Cold
they called
War
it that.
stuff.
Yeah. Right.
But that's true because they don't go through all the human trials that we have. They don't have the FDA. Right.
Only 100 died out of 102.
Yeah, we're improving on 102. Yeah, we're making improvements, so the odds are getting better. Odds are getting better by the week.
Yeah, we improved by 100%. 4 people lived this time.
But I mean, dude, it's scary. So there is also the talk. They were going back and forth about how we are in so it seems like we're being so manipulated by propaganda all day, every day. And we are.
Yeah.
But there's also a large percentage of us that are not believing mainstream media, that are actively searching for the truth out here, as we're talking about right now at all times.
Yes.
And this could be done decades ago. And think about throughout history, how we were reliant on whatever the hell that newspaper told us.
Yeah.
God only knows how true any of that was. So now
you're right.
I thought it was an interesting conversation. So we now have the ability to combat propaganda in a way we never had available to us before. That's very hopeful because I've been feeling very bleak about all of this. When I see people falling for this white supremacy stuff all day long, I feel like, oh, we are doomed. We just had too many stupid people. But
yeah, it's pretty crazy. And now they've implemented it into our school systems. I mean, the whole 1619 project that's happened that Joe Biden completely endorsed, by the way, I mean, basically says that America is inherently racist, and the whole thing about America was to promote slavery, which is first off, in 1619 we were part of England. We weren't America. This was the English government that did this. The UK, we weren't America until 1776, right? I mean, our constitutional government didn't start until 1789. And people were slaves for an additional 77 years. It's not this 400 years they keep talking about, which This is mind blowing. And so they're teaching these kids to hate America, to hate different races. We got to get these. I mean, the strategy is we got to get these kids at an early age. So there's no way anybody could talk them out of this, and it's completely based on lies. It's appalling. And it's just like I said, Barry, that I really believe what's going to happen during this administration is the states are going to stand up and they're going to fight. And there's something called Article 5 in the Constitution that actually gives the states the right to put together a convention that can amend the Constitution. Right. And I believe that that's actually going to happen. Right now, you've got 26 states that are the attorney generals from the states that are suing the Biden administration for the XL pipeline that he cut down, because with the stroke of a pen, he just eliminated tens of thousands of jobs that are impacting all of these states. And here, the federal government really doesn't have the right to mandate those, especially under executive order, because it just doesn't carry the weight of law, and it's not government by the people, for the people, and of the people. That's not, the laws aren't supposed to, we've talked all through this, they're not supposed to come from the president, and especially if it's impacting people's way of life and making a living, you just cut those people off. And
I just want to clarify one thing
that's going to happen here.
About the pipeline thing. I have read that it's actually 3,000 jobs, which is a lot, if I recall. And where the tens of thousands or 10,000 or whatever comes from, or 20,000, whatever it was, is that as the proposals were being drawn up and stuff, they saw that as potential jobs in the future.
Well,
immediate jobs.
It's got a domino effect as well, because with the XL pipeline, what's happening now is that it's causing a rise in fuel costs. And as a result of rise in fuel costs, you're now impacting people's way of life. Like, for instance, one of the attorney generals was talking about how her husband is a soybean farmer. And as a result of the change, it's caused the soybeans to become much more expensive, because they have to actually transport these beans to a place, hundreds of miles away. And now it's affecting their ability to compete in the market. So it's got a lot of downstream effect to it that you're not thinking about when you're just signing off and not allowing the people to weigh in on it.
Well, everything is old border crisis situations, even more so in that way. I mean, everything that he has been trying to do is going to have ramifications. I'm not very happy. Not very happy.
It seems to me like these people are trying to change America into something that we won't be able to recognize in 4 years. Yeah. And they're trying to do this at such a fast pace. I mean, like I said, I just talked about 2 bills that are in the House right now. And then actually those 2 are in the Senate now. They've already been passed by the House, but there's more and more stuff is coming out of there that's just going to change how we work. I didn't mention in HR 1, it makes Washington, D.C. a state. That's another one.
Mentioned that before. So Biden is supposed to, let's see how this goes. He's supposed to have his first is it a State of the Union or just a press conference or whatever on the 25th?
I think it's a press conference. Yeah.
25th. Yeah. Well, so we'll see how live this is or whatever, how short, or it's going to be controlled. I know that. It's definitely, they do not want him out there freelancing in front of a camera. They do not.
No, they don't. No, they don't. That's Putin knows that too. That's why he did that.
That was a great point. I didn't hear that. That's really a powerful statement right there.
Yeah.
What was I going to say about that? Geez, I just can't remember anything today. But I really don't remember. Go ahead. I had something I was going to say.
Well, we were talking about how he's going to do this press conference and how risky that is. It's going to be controlled.
What I was going to say is I've been so shocked at what Biden, the so-called moderate, he's pretty much always tried to fashion himself as a moderate. Now all of a sudden is pushing really nonsensical leftist values through. God. how pliable is this guy? I mean, is he just being kept propped up by some occasional shots of adrenaline to, then put him out in front of a camera for a minute? And
have you ever seen that one Star Trek episode? It's a very interesting one, and I've only seen it like once or twice, but they beam down to this planet, and it's like a Nazi-esque kind of government that they've beamed into, and they have the leader. They keep talking about the leader, and he's like kind of an Adolf Hitler kind of character, but you always see him coming on like their televisions and everything talking, but he's like completely inaccessible. And it turns out that they've severely drugged this guy and they're just using him as a puppet. He's like basically not even a real person anymore. They've turned him into something. And it's interesting that it seems to match up to what's happening with Joe Biden, because it seems like they wanted him to be in there so that they could completely manipulate and control him, and it's not really him.
He's the Manchurian Candidate.
He is the Manchurian Candidate. That's exactly right. I'm so glad you watched that movie.
That was good, man. It was intense. It was so well acted. Like I
have goosebumps thinking about
Denzel and what's his name, the star of that, who was really
good. He's really good. I forgot his name. By the way,
good. Yeah, Liev Schreiber.
Yeah, this is a great remake. You're talking about the remake, which is the one with Denzel Washington. Now,
2004.
So this is an interesting thing between the two movies. I would highly recommend you watch the original.
Yeah.
That one was the better movie, actually.
Wow. Because, man.
Yeah. And so this movie, I thought it was a great movie too, but it's based off of the fact in this movie, the bad guys were the multinationals, right?
Yes.
They were the
Okay, had a little hiccup there, but you were talking about the old.
Yeah. I was talking about the old one. The old one. So the bad guy in the sequel is the multinational. The old one, the bad guy is the Chinese government.
Really?
And what happens is that this whole brainwashing thing was actually a result of the Chinese government, and it starts out with the same kind. It's the same premise. It's just they switch the bad guys, and that's what I was trying to say on the show is that a lot of this stuff is really happening right now. But interestingly, when the remake came out, the Chinese government wasn't the bad guy. And what we're seeing here is that the Chinese government is actually impacting how our movies are made. And when the remakes come out, like there's another remake where I can't remember the name of the movie, where it was the Chinese government that attacks the United States. And then they did a remake. And this time it was a whole different country. It wasn't Chinese government, because they have their hooks into Hollywood.
Yes,
that's what's going on right now. And I'm saying that if you don't watch the original Manchurian Candidate with Frank Sinatra, it's probably going to get banned, and it's going to be in the same trash pile with the Dr. Seuss books.
Man, you're right, and that's true. Again, back to what Mike Baker was saying is, we know this from things we learned when we were kids, when we were not so infiltrated by China. He said, but that's been their plan. It's been a very slow, insidious plan. It is first
for decades
to infiltrate education, entertainment, and
Hollywood,
media, and it's really come to a head. So now they're moving quickly because they've gotten so infiltrated.
I've got this great book. I gotta see if I can find it. I'm gonna hold on a second.
Yeah.
Yes, here it is. This is it right here. So this is
Hollywood
Traders. And look at, you got the swastika right there, and it goes. Is
this about the blacklist?
A little bit big. No, the blacklist actually happened in the early 50s. This is a prelude to the blacklist, and a lot of information that I did not know are in this. Let me see here. This is the true story of the much mythologized Hollywood 10 by a scion of Hollywood royalty. I'm not going to read that. The whole book actually talks about how in the 30s, how aligned our Hollywood people were with not only Russia, but also with Adolf Hitler. And of course, remember, at first it was Russia, and you're seeing a lot of movies that are being made during that time that are glorifying the communist movement. And then when Hitler makes that pact, the non-aggression pact with Russia in 1939, suddenly Hitler becomes the darling of Hollywood as well. Oh. And until the Hitler invades Russia by surprise in 1941. But it's just this very interesting thing about how Russia had their hooks in that this whole movement by Russia to influence the United States regarding communism by infiltrating the Hollywood infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And that did lead to the blacklisting and everything like that. Interestingly, the blacklisting thing, a lot of those people that got blacklisted ended up still working in Hollywood under fictitious names. Some pretty great movies came out under these fictitious names. But the whole thing is that the point I'm trying to make is even during the 30s, this plan was being hatched. And what we're seeing here almost 100 years later is the full results of that strategy being played out. And when we see Black Lives Matter, by the way, run by people that are Marxists, that were trained this way, that whole strategy, and we see it now in academia, in the movies, and now in our high levels of government. I mean, we have high level people like Eric Swalwell who have been influenced by Chinese spies. Dianne Feinstein's driver turned out he was a Chinese spy for over a decade. These people have done a brilliant job. I mean, I talked about USSR. Well, of course, China wouldn't have become a communist nation had it not been for the USSR. So they're highly linked together, just like you brought up at the beginning of the show with this misinformation campaign coming from Russia and China. They're together.
They just formed that pact to do the moon base. Remember, I said that last week.
Exactly. Because they're trying to. They're on the same team. It's the same ideology. It's.
What bothers me
when they try to say, "Oh, it's the Russians, not the Chinese," you can't pick one or the other.
Right.
You got to realize what you're dealing with. It's an ideology, not a nation that you're dealing with. They're all on the same team.
Here's another dangerous thing about the Trump hate thing. And that is, since Trump was all China virus and stuff like that, he was, anti-China. So, that's a Trump thing. So now we got the whole, oh my God, racist against Asians.
That's what's happened. Yeah.
And so now
it's dangerous.
It's dangerous because there's a pro-China thing going on in our country. And they're the most dangerous thing in the world right now. So they got themselves all in a tizzy over that Russian misinformation campaign for 4 years. So it's anti-Russia. And now this faction is really aligning itself too much with China. And China is way too dangerous, man.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've had conversations with people out here that want to espouse the progress that China has made, and they've made a lot of progress. Yes. I mean, if you take a look at economically what they've been able to do over the last 50 years has been almost miraculous. However, you have to take a look at what expense, and the expense is that human rights are completely sacrificed, and the people don't have a say in what's going on with their government. They've got concentration camps over there, Even when they think they have a successful business that they've been partnering with the government on, the government allowed them a degree of success. But boy, the minute they open up their mouth, man, they disappear. They're gone. They're gone. They're gone. And there's anybody that speaks out against the government gets crushed immediately. Religious freedom is out the window. That's why those Uyghurs are in the concentration camp. Their God is a threat to them. Christian churches have all been persecuted. The cross has been eliminated. Anybody that speaks out against it disappears. And the reason for that is because liberties all stem from your religious beliefs. Here in America, it's the same thing. We talked about this with the Declaration of Independence. It's based on the fact that all men are created, and they're created in God's image. And so our rights actually have been endowed by God, and governments are in place to protect that. That's where your liberties come from. So of course, if a tyrannical government wants to attack your freedoms, the first thing they're going to do is attack your religious freedom. And that's what they've done. They've squashed that in China. And the interesting thing that's happened here is that it's happening here, systematically happening here. Here in California, we still can't go to church.
Oh,
for almost a year, they've eliminated church. You could go to Walgreens, you could go to McDonald's, you can't go to church. And that's, again, where your liberties come from. And they've been systematically curtailing all of our liberties at the same time. So there's a lot of red flags out there that when you get enough of them, it's like, if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, feathers like a duck, it's a duck. So that's what's going on, man.
Hey, I hate to say it because I could do this all day, but I got to get going.
Me too. Sure. I know. I can't even believe how quickly time flies here. I got to get going too. I hope that you have a great weekend. I hope you get to ride your bicycle.
Sunday's supposed to be beautiful, so I hope so as well.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Love you.
Have a good one,
week.
Barry. Love you too, man. Bye. You too.